My name is Keith. I'm a voice guy, and in 5,000 orders, I've never done this. This is my personal endorsement for the SAHD Podcast. 3 years ago, I became a stay-at-home dad. I had no clue what to expect, how to handle it, underestimated the pressures, and I had no guide. I wish this podcast had been around when I was going through it. So without further ado, this is the SAHD Podcast. Bob has been a stay-at-home dad for almost 8 years. So on this show, you'll get dad's advice, shared experiences, product reviews, insight, inspiration, and most of all, we're gonna have fun. Lean back and enjoy it and share it with your friends. This is the SAHD Podcast, and this is your host, Bob.
What's going on, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the SAHD Podcast. Today, we're going to discuss who I am, what this SAHD Podcast is all about, and what you can expect in the upcoming episodes. So, let's get started. First, this is the SAHD Podcast, SAHD SAHD, which stands for Stay at Home Dad. That's me. Hi, I'm Bob. I have been enjoying the stay-at-home dad journey for almost 8 years. And I am very lucky and very blessed as I have 2 healthy and beautiful children. I have a daughter, Ella, who is 7 years old and has started at a new school this year and has finally started an organized after-school program. And my son, Braden, who's turning 2 in January, is an absolute savage. Hey! And for those of you who knew me growing up, yeah, he's me, 2.0. I got my hands full. I love being a dad, and every day is something new and challenging. I am constantly learning and having to adapt, something I have a hard time doing. It has definitely changed me for the better, and I am a better person because of them. That being said, I am by no means an expert. My son isn't even 2 yet, and he already had stitches. So, this is not a how to be a dad podcast. This is not even a if you want to be a better dad, you need to do X, Y, and Z. This is not that kind of podcast. As I said, I am no expert. I do, however, hope you get something out of this and find this podcast mostly useful at times, as we will have a lot of information as this podcast grows. What I do want this podcast to be is a collection of resources from not only myself, but from other dads as well. That means you. Yes, you dads out there. I want you to be as much a part of this as I am. What you can also expect to hear is my journey as a stay-at-home dad, as well as interviewing other dads with their own unique experiences and background. We will also be reviewing products that I think will benefit you as a parent, as well as some cool dad gear just for you. Nice! Now, what is in it for you? What are you, the listener, going to get out of it? Well, other than shared experiences, different perspectives, some insight, cool product reviews, tips, and some comedic stories. Aside from all of that, I want to give you a community just for you dads out there. Starting out as a stay-at-home dad, I didn't have much to go on, outside of the baby books, which, let's be honest, pertain more so as a supportive role during pregnancy and leading up to during maternity leave. They have their place, and I highly encourage new fathers out there to read them as they guide you through. But what happens when your partner goes back to work and they take the training wheels with them? That's where I was left. Help! Alone with this little fragile life and nothing to go on except reading a lot of mom blogs and eavesdropping on moms at the park, playground, whatever. Creepy, I know, but that's the truth, and that's my point. Filtering through to figure out what I should or should not be doing as a parent while still holding on to my masculinity. I didn't know how to ask for help without sounding like an idiot because there's a lot of stigma that comes along with being a stay-at-home dad. I constantly got the, oh, must be nice not having to work, or
you play video games all day?
What's the matter? You can't find a real job?
For some reason, being a stay-at-home dad was apparently different than being a stay-at-home mom. All the stuff that stay-at-home moms have been doing for ages. Being able to raise both of my own children is the most rewarding and challenging experience I have ever had, and I don't ever regret it. I truly learned the meaning of embracing the suck. The only light at the end of the tunnel is decades away. Is it easy? No. Is it worth it? 1,000,000 times yes. When they are up every hour, and you can count the number of hours you slept in a week on your fingers, and still find a way to grind through every day. But when they grab onto you and they hug you, or they look at you in that undescribable way, that unconditional love, that, my friend, is embracing the SAHD, because it is 100 times worth it. Now, this podcast is not for stay-at-home dads. This is for all dads out there, and anybody else that wants to listen. I just want to make that clear. That being said, I wish I had something like this in the beginning. Creating this podcast and starting this interactive community to get advice, support, and just to hear somebody else's story. I was constantly questioning if what I was doing was right, what I was doing was wrong. I constantly felt like I was behind the curve. I was always playing catch up, always second guessing myself, always cleaning the same thing every day, sometimes multiple times a day. If I was able to check in and gauge where I was at, had somebody telling me that I was doing okay, being a stay-at-home dad probably would have been a lot easier and a lot less stressful. Just knowing that I wasn't alone. So, this podcast is just the tip of the iceberg here. What I get out of this podcast is not only your friendship, but also I want personal growth. I want to become not only a better, more well-rounded, and no, not more rounded like a dad bod. I want to become a better, more well-rounded person. So, the only way this podcast is going to grow is with you, the listeners out there. So, this is a big learning curve for me, and I may end up dropping an episode every week or so, just until I get the flow of things. Anyway, we're going to try to break up the episodes into segments, such as catching up on the week, which will be called the warm-up, followed by the press box, where we answer your submitted questions, comments, funny stories, pictures, videos, basically responding to you. What else? The 7th inning stretch, where we review products, some tips, and tricks. The headliner, where we dive into the main topic of the episode, the meat and potatoes of the episode, if you will. Another one called the locker room, which is just that, locker room talk. Whatever random thing that pops up that I or you feel like talking about. And then we are going to cap it all off with a dad joke, because this wouldn't be a dad podcast without a dad joke. Now, these may change in order. I may add or remove a segment. It all depends. So let me know what you think. Like I said, I want this to be as interactive as possible. The more engagement, the more this podcast can grow. I like to consider this an on-demand service for dads from all backgrounds. Everyone is different, and everyone comes from a different background. And everybody has a story to tell. One parenting technique may be different than another, and neither one is right nor wrong. What may work for your first child may not work for your second child. So through shared experiences, people can try different things. So rather than having to stream through a bunch of different parenting podcasts and having to scroll through episodes to try to figure out what your specific question is or your specific topic, rather you can reach out to one of the SAHD Podcast social media platforms, and myself and other dads with similar experiences can give feedback, advice, or at the very least point you in the right direction. And who knows, we may discuss it in the next episode. Plus, you can expect to receive encouragement from other dads as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this introductory episode. I hope you're as excited as I am. If you are, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you can catch my videos on YouTube. Oh, and before I forget, the first episode should be coming out December 1st. Just to get an idea of what this podcast is about, in the first episode, we are going to discuss losing your first tooth, the concept of the tooth fairy, and how I learned the hard way to properly pull a tooth out using a bow and arrow. So stick around, as you're not going to want to miss it. I hope to hear from you all very soon, and I am excited to see where this podcast takes us. So, until next time, SAHD out.
You've been listening to the SAHD Podcast, one of the most unique podcasts on the internet. A show designed for stay-at-home dads, giving you advice, shared experiences, product reviews, insight, inspiration, and heck yeah, we have fun. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we hope you got some useful information from it. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, hook up with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Check out the website for merch. Find shirts, hoodies, and mugs at sahdcast.com. That's SAHDcast.com. And to reach out, send an email to bob@sahdcast.com. We'll see you next time.
So this podcast is just a tip.